Hey guys, welcome back to Notice That, an EMDR podcast. We are in the studio today in a bit of a different way than we've ever been before.
That's true.
We've got lights, we've got cameras, we've got extra people.
Yep.
We were just sitting here before starting, kind of reflecting on how different this is from the first couple of years of recording.
Yes.
We've been easing into it, but today feels a little bit different for some reason.
It's quite a bit different.
Yeah.
I think it has something to do with a large boom light over my head.
Yeah.
It could be that, or it could be not one, but two cameras.
That could be, yeah.
And a videographer, right?
Filmographer.
Filmographer. Hi.
Hi, Tyler.
Tyler Wasson.
He's here. Jamie, you guys have been hearing us talk about her. We have a producer in here. She's running all the audio.
Hi, Jamie.
So it's just like a whole thing. And that just is exciting, but also feels so bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
And as we set up today's episode, this is really kind of an introduction into the season, and just exploring what this is going to look like and what changes we've been experiencing and what the podcast, what our vision is for 2022.
Yeah.
So in doing so, I thought it might be neat to kind of walk through our story of Notice That and how that came to be. And I don't know if we've ever really talked about that much on the podcast. I don't
know if I've actually ever heard this story
okay.
from start to finish. So I'm very excited.
All right.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're going to have a part in it. I don't know if you know that, but
what?
You do have a part.
Oh.
That will be
you
happening.
came in. Yeah, you came in eventually.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll begin. Are we ready?
Yeah.
A long, long time ago.
Yeah, you definitely need to do this.
A long, long time ago, before the idea of Beyond Healing was even an idea, even the glimmer of an idea, both Jen and I were doing our thing in private practice.
Yeah.
And I had a practice that was with a group of therapists called Beyond Studio. Oh. That was the origination. I almost named... Can't believe I'm about to say this out loud.
Do it. No place like a podcast.
Yep. No place like just being real public. I almost named it Hinterlands because that's me.
Nice.
I was talked out of it, though, for really obvious reasons. Although there's still a
unanimously,
part of me,
or was there like
very unanimous?
Okay.
I was really the only one that voted yes. But I like to imagine, Bridger, that if you had been there, you would have entertained it for a while.
I'd have gone on board.
Yeah, I know.
Caleb as well.
Absolutely.
Imagine Hinterlands Healing Center, Hinterlands Institute, all the things.
You need the
potential there.
Triple alliteration with Hinterland Healing House.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm so excited. So that's coming in 2022. Hinterlands
that's
Healing
not the
House.
point.
Stop. That's not
No, I'm
coming.
just kidding. That's not real.
Not the point.
Just a dream. So back to long, long time ago when I didn't name the thing Hinterlands because it was a terrible idea at that time. So we had a small practice, and one of the other therapists and I got this wild idea that maybe we wanted to start a podcast. And at that point, it was literally me recording her and I sitting at a table on my cell phone. And we would interview people and just talk about whatever we wanted to talk about. And my only express purpose for doing the podcast was I wanted to talk to other human beings that like to think about the same things that I like to think about. And there was no intention behind it ever becoming anything. And we called it Reconceive Podcast. I think it might be out there somewhere still.
Yeah, I think
Find
like
episodes.
that's real. And I'm terrified to know what I said back then because I was a completely different version of myself.
that was in your year of yes. Do you remember the
A
year
year of yes? I've never heard
that's,
this story.
That's part of the story. Mm-hmm. So at that point in my life, I was a very different human than I currently am. And I decided, this was the year after I had had my daughter, and as you guys all know, that experience was transformative to say the least. And I decided that I was going to practice a year of yes, which meant that whatever opportunity came my way, whatever invitation I received, I would say yes to it.
Okay.
I
really
recommend
hasn't changed much. I don't feel like.
No, because now I understand the brilliance of the universe in bringing opportunities and just saying yes. That doesn't mean saying yes to things that people ask you to do when it's just work that they want you to do. But I was clear in the intention of new opportunities, particularly around things that I'd never tried before. At this point, I've tried a lot. Because when you spend a year just saying yes to all opportunities, I went to a lot of interesting trainings. I had a lot of very interesting experiences, talked to interesting people. And the result of that is that I found myself in a car with Jen, my Toyota Prius, driving to Atlanta, Georgia.
And that was never really supposed to happen that way.
That was never
We
supposed
had,
to happen that way.
4 or 5 therapists.
Yep.
We were all going to go to
That's
this
right.
MDRA conference.
That's right.
And at like the last minute,
Everybody bailed.
everyone backed out on us.
Yep. And at that point in my life, I was much more introverted and reserved, which I know might be hard to imagine, but it was real. And so I was totally going to back out. But here we find ourselves in the year of yes. So
Gotta go.
So I didn't. I didn't back out. And we're in the car for 10 hours.
I remember thinking like, okay, what are some topic ideas? What are we going to talk
too.
about for 10 hours? What
We
if we
planned-
don't like the same music?
I know.
Like-
I don't even know you.
Right. We literally barely knew each other. We had a
Yep.
common friend.
Yeah, one common friend. And we talked about that friend quite a bit because that was one point of connection.
Yeah.
And the fact that we were both therapists and the fact that we both did EMDR and happened to be going to an EMDR conference.
Were you at all like doing trainings at this point?
No.
Oh, no. This wasn't even like the beginnings of an idea. This
Okay.
was, yeah.
So you were just trained in EMDR.
I think we were working towards, like we were doing some
separately.
consultation work, like
Yeah.
separately. And that's an interesting
like
parallel.
working
yes,
towards
thing.
certification. Were you already certified?
We were both already
Certified.
certified.
Okay.
And separately, both of us happened to reach out to the same trainer, Lisa
yeah, yeah.
Sager in
Yeah.
St. Louis.
Yeah, EMDR
And
training
That's
center.
right. And I have a very clear memory of being on that phone call and her saying to me, "Do you know Jen Savage?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, well, she reached out to me the other day asking the exact same question that you're asking me."
And it was like a random Google search.
It was a
how I
random
found
Google
her.
search. Me too. Me too. So, like I said, year of yes, year of alignment, year of weird serendipity.
I was just gonna
Yes.
say serendipity.
So we find ourselves in my Toyota Prius with 10 hours to kill. And then the universe conspired again to create a tremendous bonding experience because I got deathly ill.
Oh, that's-
Like not even, like, oh darn, I have to go back to the hotel. I was sitting in the front row of a conference session with one of my personal heroes, Dr. Irene Siegel, and having like a moment of true hero worship as I'm listening to her speak about being in the energetic field of your clients as you're doing EMDR. You can imagine how excited I was
Yeah.
about that. And suddenly, a parasite that I had ingested from the night before visited itself upon me in a very extreme way. And I left that session on my hands and knees, crawling from the front row.
Like
Literally.
Are you in this session?
No.
No,
No.
I'm in a different one. And I get a text message that says, "Help. I'm so sick and I can't get out."
So here's what happened. Here's the context. So I have two options in the moment when I felt like my guts were being ripped outside of my body. So I get on my hands and knees. And so now the people next to me are clearly wondering what is happening.
Are you okay?
Well, and they didn't do anything, which is fascinating and a whole nother conversation. But I had two options, left or right. If I went right, I would have to literally crawl down the middle aisle in front of about 150 people. That didn't seem appealing to me. So I went left. And there was a door to the left. So I get to the door that's in this little like cutout alcove. So now I'm like hidden. I'm like, oh, thank God, right? The door's locked.
Oh no.
So now I'm faced with, I'm going to have to crawl back in front of Dr. Irene Siegel as she's talking and crawl back down the middle aisle. Like, that can't happen. I would rather die right here than face that reality. So as my last Hail Mary, I send Jen a text who's in a different session far away in the convention center.
Oh,
Like
it's
far away.
huge.
It was
and I had
huge.
no idea where she was.
I
So I'm
didn't-
like, I'm coming. Where are you? How do I get to you?
Yeah, so like my text looking back was like super dramatic, which when I'm ill, I get really dramatic. That's true.
You were really ill.
I was
don't
very
think you were
ill.
being-
No, it was like a wheelchair situation, actually.
Oh, wow.
So I get wheeled out. I think
I don't think
they.
so.
I don't know how I left the building
Yeah.
proper. I was in a dissociative fugue, trying to not vomit, and So I get to the car and I spend the next like 6 hours.
So your decision at that point was like, I'm like, let's get you home. Like, let's go back to the
No,
airport. Oh, no,
absolutely not.
I think I just need to lean back and take a rest. You go back to your session. I'm like, Melissa, let's go.
Yeah, why are we
No.
staying?
No, I'm fine.
I was at an Imdria conference. I didn't want to leave. I'm imagining that I'm going to get to come back after I go like take a nap.
She's like, I think it'll pass. I just need to go. I come back to the car and it is not there. I was like, where?
So here's the
The car?
backstory. Yeah, here's the backstory. When you're very ill and you're doing what happens when a parasite is happening in your body and you're in a parking garage and you have to open the door and throw up, then you're sitting there thinking, well, I can't stay here. So I have to move the car so I'm not parked at the scene of the crime. So I had to do this and move the car about 4 times. And every time I'm thinking, Jen's never going to find me. Do I go back to the original spot? I don't know. So I don't know exactly where I ended up, but I managed to park near an elevator and describe where I was. And so many hours later, she finds me and manages to drive home. And so I spend the next 2 days in the hotel room, like really ill. And after several weeks of dealing with the aftermath of that, I discovered that we really did eat somewhere and I got a terrible parasite and struggled with it for months. And I'm fine now, everyone. But I like to think that that was one of the strange experiences that bonded us. So by the time...
Nothing like a parasite.
Nothing like being deathly ill
Yeah.
with somebody that you don't know to just sort of get over all of the initial weirdness of hi, nice to meet you.
We're friends
it's
now.
like we're friends.
We have
You
to be.
rescued me from a near-death experience. And yeah, so that was the genesis of all of it. But it was actually the ride home.
No, the first start of it was right there because we
Okay,
didn't turn the
okay.
radio on once. Like I remember we were like talking nonstop, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, 10 hours
right.
later, we're there."
Yeah.
Like we never turned the radio on, and the idea came there, and then the whole way home, I
Then
was like,
that's right, because I drove and you took notes.
"Yep,
Yes, I do remember that.
Which that scenario plays itself out still to this
Oh,
day.
so true."
absolutely.
Jen
I
gets in a
talk and Jen
passenger
takes
seat
notes.
and like just like
Yeah, and
writing,
And makes it
writing,
happen.
writing.
That's true. Yeah. It's not just the
Comes out with
note-taking.
this whole vision of just like we're gonna do this and then this and then this and then this.
Just exactly how it was.
So I think we've told this little snippet of the story because this is the bit that like stands out to me and forever will as far as like the moment that the whole thing was born. And the moment that I knew like, we could work together. So I say to Jen, we should do a podcast. And she said, I think that's a great idea. I said, just so you know, I don't say I'm going to do something and then not do it. She said, oh, good. Me either. And it was about like that. It was a very like measured moment of sizing each other up, I think. At least that was my experience of it. And realizing like, I think that you're as much of a workaholic as I am. Nice to meet you. And the rest really is history.
Yep, we had it planned after that.
Yeah, and we didn't stop. It took us, I think, 3 months to get the first few episodes going, and we launched it. And really, I think for the first year and a half, did it just purely for the love of it, investing our own money.
2, notice that nerd questions that I've pretty much always had.
Oh, okay.
And never asked.
And never
It's my
asked.
time.
Richard.
1, were there alternate names that you were contemplating?
Besides notice that?
Yeah.
Never.
Nope.
That was the name that just came out?
No, I
Yeah,
think
it was
it
so
came out of my
obvious.
mouth. I said, what do you think about this? And she said, yep. And
I mean,
then
that is a deep cut EMDR like reference.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
love that.
well, I think it wasn't as much of a deep cut back then.
Really?
Because I mean, this has been some years. Like, notice that was like standard, and I think
What
that
do you mean deep cut?
Well, yeah, just like that's like iconic to
Right.
the EMDR community, but it's
Yeah.
not. People that don't know EMDR don't understand why
What that
notice
is.
that as like a part of it.
Yeah.
I think we thought we were being punny.
I mean, it's a brilliant name. I think.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
You're welcome.
and I think that there might have been a little bit of riffing on like EMDR inside joke humor and how
Yeah.
we should
Yeah,
all
for
make
sure.
T-shirts at the conference and things like that because
Yeah,
that's what you do at
because like
conferences.
you don't know what notice that means if you're not an EMDR
That's the point.
therapist,
That's exactly the point.
and that's brilliant. So
Mm-hmm.
the second question: what did those first recordings actually look like, and how did you start the process of like, okay, we're gonna do this thing? How do
Yeah.
we record a podcast, like you already had experience with the phone.
I did. And I think my recollection of it is I came in with no plan and Jen had a very clear plan.
Yes.
And I realized, oh, this is how this is going to go. I'm going to show up and wing it and she's going to have all the notes. And that is never,
another thing that
stopped.
plays itself out.
But it works. So don't fix it if it's working well.
If it ain't broke.
Exactly.
It did. That's exactly how it went.
Because you have never done any podcasts before.
No.
So
No.
when you said, like when she said that you came with your notes, like, do you have a season in mind already? Like,
Yeah,
No,
well, I
think we had.
had listened to podcasts
Yeah.
and knew, I mean, with the standards, we need
Like
an
the general
intro, we need
structure.
an outro. What kind of things do we want to do? What would
Yeah.
be like highlight pieces?
yeah.
And so,
See, I love this story because to me, this is how a podcast gets started. Like some people think that you have to have the studio that we're in right now
no.
before you can start a podcast. And it literally starts on like a voice
phone.
recorder.
Yes. Yeah.
We got lucky though, because my
Yeah.
sister owns Revel Advertising.
I feel like
and
Revel is an integral part of
Huge.
this story.
Yeah,
So
huge.
Yeah.
And so she had a little mini podcast studio.
Yeah.
Like, mics, chairs. It felt crazy fancy at the time. Looking back, I think
We
it's kind
took
of the
pictures.
basics.
We do. We should post some of those early
Yeah.
pictures. You're wearing leopard print, and I have short hair and glasses, and
red frame glasses.
red frame
Yeah.
glasses, and we thought we were real cool.
And our photo shoot was in like their art in their waiting room.
yeah,
My cousin came to take
Snaps.
pictures.
were they still in the same
Nope.
office? Where were they at?
yeah.
It was a different building downtown.
Okay. Still downtown though.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they had that little room, and she was like, "Yeah, you guys can use it." And I'm like, "Well, could we like pay rent or something?" And she's like, "No, just come use it whenever you want." So we would come in and do like 2 or 3 episodes.
So you
on a
moved up from a
Saturday.
phone to a pretty like
Yeah, we never did notice that on a phone.
No,
Oh,
we.
okay.
Started
I
in the
eventually
studio.
got like a little Zoom recorder thing.
yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, and
Those things are handy.
I know they are. They're useful. Oh, so some other fun tidbits. The original Notice That logo of the iris that was done on my iPad with my very fancy brand new Apple Pencil, which I was feeling real cool about.
Nice.
So designed that on the fly on the iPad. And then the other tidbit is the original intro and outro is my dad.
Yeah.
Another like notice that nerd.
Yeah, notice
like,
that nerd trivia. That's Melissa's daddy.
That's right.
That did that for us. And we felt real cool about it because it felt so official.
Yeah.
So official.
The music, free download MP3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
And there were no ads back then because we had
nothing to advertise.
Right?
Also, we weren't real clear if anybody was listening to us.
Yeah,
Well,
because you
'cause
weren't
they
doing
weren't.
trainings yet, right?
No trainings. We weren't
Right.
doing anything. No.
Yeah, and really we had just a few friends listening, like colleagues
and your mom.
friends.
Your
yeah,
mom
my
was
mom,
a huge
she's
fan.
probably the biggest for a while, really.
Yes. Yeah. I
support
also
her.
remember screenshotting on my phone and sending the picture to Jen with lots of emojis of when we hit 100 downloads.
Yeah.
Oh.
that was a
Oh
big
my
day.
God. That was a very big deal.
And then when
100
we
people.
hit, was
When we hit 1,000, that was
1,000 is
another
another big
moment of
one.
like, I don't even know what's happening. Yeah.
I don't even know what we're up to now.
Me neither. For
Really?
context, I used to check like every day. I haven't checked in months. I have
Yeah.
no
We
idea where
recently
we're
It's
at.
looked.
it's
What was
hundreds
it?
of thousands now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was startling when it started to actually be a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that we really knew what to make of it. Of like, why are people listening to us talk? We're having fun.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes a great podcast though,
Yeah.
is when like the people that are doing it are talking about something that's relevant and they are clearly passionate about it with each
Right.
other. Like that's the makings of a great
I
podcast.
think we realized when we could sit in a car for 20 hours without radio, we had a lot to say.
Right.
And EMDR, it started out really just kind of all of our soapboxes. Like the first season, if you go back, are just our soapboxes.
Yes.
Of saying like, oh, hey, by the way, this is an issue and let's address that and talk about that. And trying to figure out how do we support clinicians in bringing EMDR into their practice effectively and feeling like not so alone in it.
Yeah.
And then kind of challenging all of those constructs from a basic training that said like, "Oh, that doesn't actually feel that helpful
Yeah.
when you get into practice on it."
Yeah.
And I feel like that is the piece that keeps people coming back.
Yeah.
That really is like the sense of community of other people like me, and challenging those feelings that we're not presenting this mystical thing that says it's just magic every time.
Right.
Silver
But
bullet. You just
right.
use it.
that really get into the why behind things, and
Yeah.
that is the draw, it seems to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you
So-
for answering those questions.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Bridger, let's transition into kind of
When
the
you showed up
shift
on the scene.
that happened in all of it when you came along.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I would love, I mean, I have my experience of that, but I would love to hear your story, and I can kind of add my piece
Well,
in.
my
I
story-
don't even know, like, when did you first listen and notice that?
To be honest, I had not listened to it before
Yeah.
I was on it.
Yeah, because I just
you
scheduled an interview with you.
Yeah, you just told me, hey, by the way, I do this podcast, and we'd love to have you on to talk about polyvagal theory.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to that idea?
Sounds awesome.
Just cool.
Let's do it.
Well, at that point, you and I were sort of taking any opportunity we could find to go talk about PVT. We
That's
did it
true.
in a lot of different spaces.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, to me, it just kind of fit in with the way, like, things were happening at that point. I don't know. And I knew that I was really hoping to be able to work with Beyond as a clinician myself. And I knew that there was like-minded individuals there who might be open to some of the ways that I've been thinking up to that point. And when I got the invitation to talk about polyvagal theory, that was me kind of feeling like, I think there's going to be a future somewhere in this. I didn't know if I was like what that would be, but I had just at that point confirmed that I was not moving away for a doctoral program, that I was going to stay here, and I needed a place to work. And Melissa was like, oh, well, you should totally just stay, and we should just figure this out. I'll talk to Jen and Ryan and we'll get it all sorted out.
Which, by the way, I don't know that I've ever publicly said thank you to both of you for trusting me so implicitly, because number one, you trusted me when I said, oh yeah, I'll give you a job, when I didn't have a job to give you.
Right.
That wasn't real. I made that up.
Yep.
And then for them, when I went and said, we should hire this person full time that you don't know and somehow find a job to give him.
Yeah.
So thank you to both of you for taking that
Yeah.
elaborate risk with me.
So yeah, Jen, when I showed up to that podcast on Zoom, this was during COVID.
Yeah, we were
And-
under tight lockdown.
Yeah. Yeah, we were. And so we were on Zoom. When I got into that room, I think that was the first time I met you.
I had met you at the training, the EMDR training. Like I'd
Yeah.
seen you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we'd
Yeah.
formally met, but
No, I don't think we did. But yeah, so you knew my face, I knew your face, and I knew who you were just through Melissa. But yeah, I was just there to talk about PVT.
yeah.
And EMDR had been trained a year before that. And so,
You did you attend the first training that I know we were training to become trainers, and I think it was our first one.
yeah.
Yeah, that was our
present at.
first one in Springfield. I think we had done, well, yeah, it was our first one to present at, because that was the one where I tripped over
remember.
myself and like yanked the computer off the thing. And then there was the one day where I forgot to wear a bra to the training. It was that training.
I
Like, that was real.
remember picking up on like you guys were being shadowed
Yeah.
on how to do it. There were so many quirks from that training that I was like, that's interesting.
Full dynamic
I
there.
bet.
What's
happening? And looking over at Lisa, wasn't like, this is interesting. This is like a whole like dinner and a show underneath the
Yeah,
training
there
content,
was
which I asked about neurobiology. And
You asked about attachment.
I did
Yeah,
ask about
attachment
attachment.
and neurobiology. I remember that.
Neurobiology.
And I remember thinking right in that moment, you little shit, you're totally testing her right now.
Is that what you were doing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hands down. Don't deny it.
Puffing up your feathers a little.
Well,
Because I knew you were asking a question that you already knew the answer to. Like if she had said, you can stand it for 20 minutes now and give a mini lecture on that question that you just asked.
Hold on. We have to dispel some illusions to arrogance in this moment.
Oh, okay.
Because to me, honestly, this is how I feel about this. So I've gone so many years being the only one that thinks about some of these things. Like people just are not interested, it seems, in my educational history. And so there are like these like covert ways of like, are
Checking.
you the same as
Absolutely.
me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because if you know to talk about this person right now, this author, we're on the same wavelength. And so I have things like that all the time. I learned that like early on in like late high school to talk that way. Like if you knew about this obscure reference, we're going to be good friends.
Right. Right.
And so when I ask about that, it's not like I need to know if you know this, because if you don't, I'm not going to listen to you. It's like are we kind of from the same cloth?
Right.
Like, do you care about the same things that I do? And I guess it's kind of like a romantic idea of we've been on the same journey and not known it.
And I think there's a little bit in you, and this is an assumption, so you should clarify it, of is it safe to be fully me and like
100%.
really unleash?
Yeah. And I don't want to do that
Right.
without knowing. And so that, and she
Is
did
it
not
safe to
answer
be
the
full
question.
nerd right now?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I kept it. Yeah. I kept it back. So
It
Yeah.
was very visibly obvious, and I
well,
didn't know.
I was getting,
In fact, you
What
did
you
exactly
knew.
that with your hands, by the
Yeah.
way. You just tucked it in.
yeah. Well,
Uh-huh.
but yeah. So what's your experience of that time of our lives?
Yeah, I think about the Zoom one. I think about how terrible the quality of that episode really is, but the content was amazing. In fact, it's one of our like most highly listened to episodes, and it was really good. And then I remember coming out of that, we scheduled a time to talk, just the three of us, about other ideas. And you and I were working to become trainers then, and we had listed out trainings that we wanted to create, like advanced trainings we wanted to do. And so I remember on that call, you were like, so what are you guys thinking with trainings? And you started like being really curious and asking these questions. I was like, okay, that's interesting, because at this point I didn't know you'd offered him a job already.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
I think I had told you, don't say anything yet. Let me work on this
You
for a
did
minute.
That's what
allude
all
to
those
some
questions
kinks.
were
Okay.
then, because you were like feeling it out. And
I
go,
was
"Damn,
interviewing
it's
you."
Interesting. Yeah, this is really, really
all right.
curious. And the two trainings that I had in my mind that I wanted to do, that we'd kind of talked about divvying up, was creative resourcing and case conceptualization.
Yeah.
Did I know what that meant compared to what I know now? No. But I used those words.
Yeah.
And I remember you like your reaction was like, wait. What do you mean by that? And I was like, I don't really know what I mean by that. All I know
But we
is
know
that
it's important, okay?
it's important, and like nobody knows how to do it. And I remember case conceptualization feeling really important, like EMDR case conceptualization and how we learn it in trainings. And like, if you can get this part right, everything else can fall
It just
into place.
unlocks from there.
Everything.
Yeah.
But feeling like there was no other trainings about it out there. And we learn it in basic training like super fast in a short period of time. And I remember in certification consultation, I would spend so much time on that section and like really working to develop clinicians in that. And so I had no idea what it meant to like build a training in that.
Right.
But I remember like your reaction. I was like, that was interesting.
'Cause
Why did he start asking
You did
me
one
all
of the
these
things,
questions?
like you did one of the things that I look for. You said a word that to me was just like, oh,
And then,
She
you were
could
like,
be a-
open up. Whoa, what
she
do you
could
mean
be
about
one.
that?
You should ask a question. Like that's
Yeah.
honestly like that. Like my internal experience of that moment is you said a word that was a clue, like it was a code word.
It makes so much more sense now.
Yes, it was a code word that like when you're in the club, you say this code word in a group of people, and if anybody in there perks up, they're also in the club.
Yeah.
Is how it felt.
Well, I'm so glad I made it into the club.
Whatever
No,
that club
no.
is.
No, but really.
That's not you in. You're already in the club. You're
That's
already
my
in
own
it.
stuff showing up, Richard.
Okay. Okay.
Just let that go.
But I noticed, Jen.
Yeah. So, yes. And then it felt like it's just like a blur after that. I don't really
Well, I never
know.
got off the podcast after.
No.
that.
In fact, we never
that real?
introduced you.
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot to introduce you.
No,
as
we
a host.
did.
Oh,
This
no,
is
no,
what
no,
people.
no. We can skip this part.
No, this is
Skip,
important to me. This is a process.
Everybody fast forward 30 seconds.
No,
and then
look,
you can
I just
No.
I told him about throwing up for hours, so
Yeah.
you get to own this bit.
We did a Who is Bridger
That's true.
episode
We did,
on
And
an
it was
SD
long.
card. It
So
was like an
sad.
hour and 10
It was
minutes
a
long.
good
and it was
It was.
beautiful.
And that SD card disappeared.
Got lost in the
And
abyss
it
of
was
Jen's
all
purse.
my fault.
Jen, don't take ownership of this, okay? We don't know.
Bridger.
No.
There's
It
so
is-
many ways that it could have been lost.
Lost.
It was
in her
in my
purse.
possession, and now it's not.
But
To
it
be
had,
fair, I have lost episodes as well.
Yeah,
Like it was a
that's
thing.
true.
It just happened to be particularly problematic because
then there was this new host.
then suddenly there's a host and you were like on episodes that we had already recorded, and then it's this awkward thing. Well, it's like, well, do we go back and try to recreate that, or do we just keep going and hope that nobody notices that suddenly
was the
there's a boy
strategy.
on the podcast
what
with
we
us?
chose.
Yeah, that's the strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people got upset.
A little. Yeah.
It changed the dynamic.
I think like a person got
No,
upset. and
multiple
then,
people.
And
No,
then
it was
we
multiple.
felt like a lot of people were upset.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Definitely less people got upset than I felt.
Well, that's definitely true.
But
I think more people were in support of the change than against the change.
Not that we really asked anybody. I mean, we didn't.
No, but they
check.
told us.
Well, that's true, and thank you for telling us.
Someone.
Jen, come on.
But I think that part of the reason why we opened up to the idea of you joining, because we didn't have to do that, was we were beginning to feel that based on what we were experiencing, would notice that maybe even more was possible.
Yeah.
And kind of feeling this desire of providing a space and a place and a way of working that would support even more therapists, because that was the part of the work that like was feeling so rejuvenating to both of us and satisfying and enlivening, was being able to interact with other therapists and like have a community of people that were interacting in this same way. And you came along, and I think, at least for me, what felt like the fit was, oh, here's somebody that articulates the neuroscience and the research of what Jen and I have been intuitively embodying for years.
Yeah.
Because like, while it was totally in us and we were practicing that way and we're good at articulating the what we were doing, we both had a lot of fascination and interest in the why as well. And you came along with some of those pieces of the puzzle and articulation of pieces that we didn't have, that I felt like kind of rounded things out in a way that, in a direction that we wanted to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And I kind of wonder if you had never come in, would we have just run out of topic ideas?
No.
I don't think so, but I'm not sure what we would have ended up doing with ourselves, because this wouldn't have happened, that's for sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, if the three of us hadn't got together the way that we did, we would all be in very different places.
Very different.
Yeah.
Not here with all of this.
No, we wouldn't have a boom light.
We wouldn't have Tyler.
We might have gotten a bit
Maybe eventually. I doubt
No,
it, though.
we wouldn't.
I don't even know if that's what that thing's called. It's just what
Is
I'm
that what
calling
it's
it.
called?
Is it called a boom light?
It's not called a boom light.
What's it
Oh,
called?
okay.
So I can.
Well.
You could say the light is boomed.
The light is boomed.
Okay, I'm gonna say that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We have
Technical
a light that's
language.
boomed.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so I'm just kind of like orienting back to real time right now. I think we just got lost in a pretty like selfish discussion. Hopefully everyone will enjoy it.
Oh.
But that was really fun.
That was. How long has
We've
it been,
never done
Jen?
that.
Personally, that was like personally satisfying.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
To reflect.
That was the first bullet point on our outline.
Wow, and we have a
Yay.
whole board worth of bullet points there.
That's okay. The rest can go pretty quick.
It's not nearly as important. Well, okay. So I do want to make a comment on something that I've been thinking about a lot. I have been super curious about the listeners' experience of how much we reflect on what it has been like for us personally to end up where we are. And I am curious about how they make sense of why we talk about that so much. And so I would love to answer that question, and then I am super curious about how you guys would answer that question. So here's my answer to that question. Why do we talk so much about that? Why do I want to talk about how weird it is to have a light that's boomed over my head?
A light that's boomed.
Yes,
Nice.
I know.
Nice
I integrated
Learning.
quickly. Yeah.
Learning, Tyler. Learning.
Like, why does it feel, why am I compelled to keep speaking in that way? And I think part of what you guys are witnessing is the in real time attempt to integrate a reality that feels so surreal and fast and like how the beep did we get here now? Because it was like a minute ago in my body, it was a minute ago that I was, a lone therapist in my office over there, you know, across the street, just doing my thing with no idea, no, you know, even glimmers of an idea about any of this. And so while I hope that we make it look effortless on the outside, behind the scenes, this scrambling in my system to make sense of this whirlwind of experience that has happened. And there's also, like, that doesn't even include the personal life transformation that has happened. I mean,
Right.
you know, just to speak explicitly, some people may have noticed that my name changed in the last year. So I've gone through, you know, becoming a mother, getting divorced, repartnering, starting a PhD program while all of this was happening.
Yes.
And there's just this insane amount of wanting to check my position on the map a lot, and trying to integrate this into reality. So in true Melissa fashion, I'm about to do something. Are you ready?
Why not?
I guess.
Okay. So the year that started this all was the year of yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to proclaim 2022 not a year of yes. Don't worry.
Year of no, maybe?
No, not the year of no. Something totally different.
Maybe.
A year of question mark? No. I am making a personal intention, and I would like it to translate into a company intention, but I'm not the only one that gets to say so on that, to be a year of rootedness. Because I feel like the hustle and the sprint that everybody has witnessed in us over the last couple of years has been all about growing out and growing up and, you know, putting leaves on our beautiful tree here at Beyond. And I am craving and desiring a feeling of rootedness and like going deep. Not that we won't be doing new things, but the new things that we're saying yes to are a way of deepening what we have already begun. That is what I want to say yes to and kind of am looking for as we begin this new year. And this is my version of setting, what do they call those for the new year? Resolutions? I don't do resolutions.
Oh, yeah.
I do this, like my intention for the
Intentions,
year.
yeah.
And so that is my intention for 22 is just roots. I need them. I need them real bad. I need to get them deep because I've got to make sense of where I find myself.
I feel like that really is, as we think about how this next season is going to play out, that is in direct alignment with what we're doing at the podcast.
Yeah.
I still think we're going to be running hard sometimes. And there's going to be a lot of things happening, but we're looking at how do we continue to strengthen what we already have.
Yeah.
And we're putting in huge effort into ways of strengthening the podcast and how many people we can reach and how we go about doing that. And I think that kind of transitions us nicely into talking about what some of those changes are. And I love the visual, Melissa, of just like really broadening the roots and continuing to like nurture those. And I think in turn, more limbs and leaves are going to grow from that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that.
Okay, so where do we start with the changes? I mean, I think
Yeah. How
some
are
of
we
them
setting
have
those
been
roots?
announced already.
That's true.
Well, I think one of the biggest broad changes, and I can't really remember if we talked about it on that episode closing
I think we did.
last year, but Beyond Healing Media
Yeah.
is a thing. And we're really moving into building Beyond Healing Media with all of our podcasts to have this really nice, cohesive nature about
Yeah.
it.
With all of our podcasts and with all of our videos. And I think that really, to me, came out of this place of if you are really looking for resources from the world of psychotherapy that are media based, you're going to be wading through quite a bit of material that isn't great quality, that has, you know, technical issues, it's hard to hear, or it's just like not a lot of creativity is put into it in my experience of it. And so to me, Beyond Healing Media being our way of making sure that we're being intentional
Yeah.
with what we're creating at every turn. So whether it just be audio or now audio video, community events that are also supported by Beyond Healing Media, that has within it intentionality and like true humanness. Yeah.
And I think having a structure like Beyond Healing Media and a brand to go behind that is going to influence so many aspects of this podcast as well as the many other things we're doing with it. But you're going to hear a lot of things change. Like we're going to have new intro and outro. You probably already heard it on this episode. It won't be your dad anymore. That we're going to do advertisements differently.
All original music.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Bridger.
There's a guitar over there.
Bridger and Caleb wrote it themselves.
That's right.
Yes. And so those little pieces you're going to notice are shifting. Hopefully just really improves the quality of what you're listening to. Our video, sound, the setup, all of those things to present a cohesive brand of Beyond Healing Media.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's one.
That's one. One change. Yeah.
I'll talk about, I want to talk about YouTube because I'm super excited about this. Yes. So we've, I think, mentioned it a few different times that we're starting a YouTube channel that will be Beyond Healing Media YouTube channel. And under that, we'll be able to have lots of different sort of sub channels that will basically give a watch list for different themes that you guys might be interested, topics that you're interested in. And one of the few new little sprigs that I'm going to focus on in the new year is a portion of that channel that I am thrilled to be able to do, simply because there's certain aspects of the work that we do that don't translate well through voice and through audio, because it is embodied work and it's very hard to describe with language all of the nuances and the subtleties of what that kind of way of working looks like. So we're going to be able to actually show you and have cameras on our bodies while some of these things are happening, so that you guys can actually see what we mean when we're trying to describe these things that we've been describing. And so there will be a sub-channel on YouTube called Soma Psyche, which is all about the embodied practice and the somatic practices that we use here at Beyond Healing. And so I'm like super thrilled that that's going to be a thing.
So it'll have Soma Psyche on there, and then it'll also have a distinct playlist for all of the podcasts that we have, because we're video and audio recording all of our podcasts, so you can see us as we talk about these things. And I think that one is just intended to also help you feel like you're a part of this, because you are as you're listening to this, and giving you more of the kind of stimuli that are here as we're talking, and you can see how we're talking and moving and relating to each other, and just enjoying our space and time together. So I think that'll be really great. And we'll have specific playlists that are kind of intended to help organize some of our discussions, where we'll kind of release smaller bits of the podcasts that are specific to concepts that might be something you just want to listen to in like a more succinct fashion, as opposed to listening to an entire episode. But it'll have all kinds of diversity of options for you as a viewer and as a part of the community virtually. Yeah.
YouTube is I just feel like it's going to change so much and enhance what we've been doing in a really big way, in a way we don't even realize yet.
So many more opportunities come available in the way of actually being able to demonstrate a lot of the things that we've been talking about, not just verbally talking through it, but setting up all kinds of situations.
Well, and one of the cool things is we'll be able to involve a lot of our other clinicians, because one of the things that I think has happened is there's sort of this feeling of like it's the three of us and sometimes Caleb, and that's not at all real. Like we have so many beautiful people that are working with us now that have their own little niche and their own little medicine that they're bringing to this work. And so there will be more opportunity to really showcase the skills that they have, and just be able to be in community in a very visual way as well.
So another thing that's coming almost as exciting as YouTube is our transition to an online platform. So we're kind of conceptualizing it like we've bought another building.
An entire campus.
But it's, a campus. It's a virtual campus.
But we don't have to furnish it this time, so that's helpful. Sorry.
Well, we kind of do. We have designers that are literally furnishing.
Look, it doesn't mean a trip to IKEA, though.
No.
So.
Which was so fun.
It really was.
But
Nebraska Furniture Mart.
Yes.
The amount of people I've told about
Nebraska Furniture Mart, we're basically a commercial. And
honestly,
now we're literally doing a commercial for Nebraska Furniture Mart right now.
We chose it. You don't have to.
It was great.
We chose it.
Yeah. But on this virtual campus that we're going to have, there will be something called Beyond Healing Community. And we talk so much about wanting to build community, and we get to now create a virtual place for that. And so this is going to continue to unfold with a lot of platforms of trainings, resources, you know, all different things that you can listen to and do there. But the Beyond Healing Community specifically is going to be a place where you can get in and chat with and have discussion boards and video Q&As with us as the hosts, with other clinicians we have on our team, with each other. And so just really creating like, here is a place that we can all like gather and meet up and just have conversation and engage with each other and support one another. We get to share those times that we're really struggling or in sessions, or those successes that we have, questions. So I am so excited about this one. And there will be, you know, a chat specific to EMDR therapy, certification, all different chats that you can join and be a part of all of them.
Yeah.
So.
It'd be very cool.
Oh, yeah. So a section that we're going to add in this season, which I think we're all really
I
excited
am
Yeah.
pumped.
we're going to do a little subsection of the episodes called Fly on the Wall. And part of this comes out of feedback that we get a lot of, which is particularly new clinicians, but I think all clinicians sort of have this tremendous interest and craving to be able to be a fly on the wall in other people's sessions.
Yeah.
And like get in there and see like, what do you do?
Like, how do you do it?
Yeah, but like, what does
do
it
you
actually
say?
sound like?
How
right?
close are you to the person?
Yeah, like you know, what tone of voice are you using? How much eye contact do you make? Like literally the details of it. So part of what we're wanting to do is bring in some really detailed and explicit conversation around that.
Yeah.
And the way that we've decided to do that is with this Fly on the Wall segment, and we're each going to choose a case of our own that we have permission from the client to talk about in a general way, still protecting privacy, but be able to share some of the general details of the case, but really talking about our experience of being the therapist in that situation, and reflecting together on what it feels like to us to work with that person, the challenges that we're encountering, the barriers that we're running into, how we're overcoming those together, and really kind of welcome all the listeners in to our sessions in some ways.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of fun, hopefully for the listeners, but even personally.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to get to share about a case and just hear thoughts and feedback and get to, you know, share different pieces of that.
Me too.
Okay, so the overall vision for this coming season is to focus in on special populations and special protocols. And we've done some of that in past seasons, but we've had just an amazing opportunity of interviews. Like, people have been reaching out about doing interviews, and it kind of sparked this interest of, what if we just dive into a special focus on certain populations and what modifications we make to standard protocol? How do we, you know, utilize these advanced protocols or special protocols to meet our clients? And so I think the main mission in this next season is to look at how the importance of standard protocol sometimes have to be adapted and modified to really reach the clients that we're serving.
Yeah.
And how do we do that while still maintaining fidelity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Still sticking to the constructs of EMDR, but also be able to expand and reshape that to work with our clients. So that's what this season will be, and it'll take us into the summer. We already have some interviews planned. We've got one coming up on polyvagal theory in children, an adventure-based.
Yeah, so a somatic and wilderness specialist. Her name is Katie Asmus out of Colorado. She runs the Somatic and Wilderness Institute out there. And so we'll be able to talk about the way that she utilizes EMDR. We have another one, a practitioner named Mary Horn, that actually did certification with us, but she is also a yoga therapist and actually utilizes a lot of yoga and movement with EMDR, which I think is really cool. And
Very
I'm
cool.
very curious to like listen to her talk about that and learn from her about how she incorporates the two. She's done like little demonstrations, and I'm going to record this one via Zoom, but I will also make sure that the video is available so that you guys can see the demonstrations and the way that she uses her body and movement in session with clients, because it's very illuminating. So, but yeah, we've got lots of fun interviews planned and more. If you guys as listeners know anybody that you want us to interview that you think might be willing to do that, send us names. I think a lot of the names came from people reaching out and saying, hey, have you thought about this person? Or
that's super helpful.
Interview me. I'm interesting. That's happened too. And they're right. And so, yeah, definitely send us names and ideas. I'm going after Ariel Schwartz. Coming for you. Yep. I've heard you're a fan, so I want to interview you. But yeah, we're going to try to get some diverse perspectives.
Yeah. So that's to come for the season, and just to kind of put out there as a way to set intentions, as you were talking about, our desires for this coming season and really the year of 2022 as a whole is to continue to expand our roots and to expand our reach, our like not even just the number of people, but the states that we're reaching, the countries that we're reaching, and continue to expand that and just offer support to more therapists, more clinicians.
And I think about like our relationships internationally where EMDR is not as well known. Like I think about Emily Knott.
Yeah.
Like in South Africa, the population of therapists that are trained in EMDR reportedly like don't really use it.
Yeah.
And I think that that to me is indicative of a systemic lack of community and a lack of resources for that community, which is for us like what we're really trying to do.
It's basically our mission and vision to fix that issue.
Exactly. And so this podcast hopefully is a beacon in that way to communities all across the world that are using EMDR and, either having success with it or struggle with it or both, who can benefit from not just listening to the material, but also connecting with the community that is behind the material. That to me is just so exciting.
Yeah. And I think that piece of connection is really, like broadening the roots, but the second mission is just to continue to create connection between us and our audience. So you had mentioned that earlier, that feeling of connection, but then between like listener and listener, building connection there.
Yeah.
Like we have gotten some, listener from South Africa partnered with a listener from Scotland, and they're talking now, and like just continuing to bring community and connection to people regardless of your location or where you're practicing, but you have a similar interest, similar heart and desire behind the work that we do, and just a platform where we can do that. And I think notice that can really like lead the that direction.
Yeah.
One of the fun and exciting ways that we want to do that, to really create community, is to invite you guys here. And we mean that very literally. We're going to be looking at doing some immersion retreats for therapists specifically, where small groups of therapists can come and we can take care of you for a few days, and really give you a space to connect with each other, with us, and be kind of reinvigorated around your work. I think, everybody is used to me talking about burnout, and I think part of why I talk about it so much is that I think it is sort of the wolf nipping at our heels all the time, as people that do a lot of trauma work, and so paying attention to it. And if you're feeling that sensation in your body of, oh boy, I'm beginning to see the little bit of evidence of burnout, really consider and take that seriously. And one of the ways that we want to support that is by bringing you here and just let us take care of you for a few days. And we'll throw in a little, like learning and stuff that, is useful. But more than anything, it's about having a space and a place where you can recharge and be with a group of people that are like-minded and are not going to be weirded out if you need to talk about the complexities of being a trauma therapist, and are going to get it.
Or wanting to practice energy healing in your work, or wanting to do whatever it is.
So we're looking at ways of creating experiences for you guys that'll be all around that reinvigoration around this work of being an EMDR therapist and working with trauma day in and day out, because we know the toll that it takes. And it's worth it, and we all know that, but we also want to pay attention to that and provide ways for you guys to be cared for in the midst of living this lifestyle. So lots of exciting things.
Yes. All right. I think that's a wrap.
Yeah,
This is
that was a
lot.
lot.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you for
Went
going
lot
on
longer
a
than I
retrospective
expected, so,
journey
yeah,
and
thanks
then
for
into
joining
the
us.
future.
Yeah.
All right.